Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here, and today we continue with the interview series with Jerry Brainum. And in this last video with Jerry and I talk about the appearance of growth hormone in bodybuilding and how this eventually led to the rise of the mass monster era, where bigger meant better. Again, this interview with Jerry Brainum is filled with interesting stories, and as always, Jerry reveals nuggets of information that I am sure many of you will appreciate. Enjoy.
Now, I spoke to Danny Padilla a while ago, and one of the questions that came up from my conversation with him was about growth hormone and its appearance during the golden era, the late golden era.
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
Okay. The first use of growth hormone that I know about occurred in the late 70s to early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was never used. Again, contrary to popular belief, Arnold and the guys from the, let's say, earlier 70s, you know, those guys, Sergeant Bray, all those guys around, Mike Katz, you name them, Franco, they did not use growth hormone. It didn't come into, it was kind of used sporadically, you know, maybe the very late 70s. I'm guessing on that one. But I know for a fact that it became much more popular use in the early 80s. And the first version of growth hormone was extracted from the pituitary glands of cadavers.
Yeah.
Now, that turned out to be very problematic because there was a certain disease, I'm trying to remember the name.
Prionic diseases.
Yeah, it was a prion disease, exactly. Yeah. For those who don't know, prions are kind of organisms. They're not alive, they're not viruses, but they can destroy your brain. This was the disease is right in the tip of my mind, but tongue. But to make a long story short, the prions that were in these growth hormone that was extracted from cadavers caused this brain disease that literally ate your brain.
Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease.
There it is. Yeah, Creutzfeldt-Jakob. It's Creutzfeldt-Jakob. It literally poked holes in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So you would die a horrible death, and it was just a horrible way to die. And when I believe the growth hormone initially, of course, was not developed for athletes. It was developed to treat a form of dwarfism, which is caused by a growth hormone deficiency in children. And Creutzfeldt-Jakob first turned up in the children. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how many, I don't even know offhand if any bodybuilders got, Creutzfeldt-Jakob. I really don't know. But when researchers or drug companies realized how dangerous the cadaver-based growth hormone was, they developed what they call a recombinant DNA, which is a synthetic form of growth hormone, involving a process using bacteria to produce growth hormone. And to this day, that is the current form of growth hormone used. Believe it or not, though, I know this is really sick, is the only word I can think of. They still online are selling cadaver-based growth hormone. And they're telling people that it's the regular, recombinant DNA. People who take that are risking their lives.
Absolutely.
How low can you go? I would never buy growth hormone online.
Well, I wouldn't buy any of it online.
I wouldn't. Yeah, well, that goes without saying. No, I wouldn't. Black market steroids is insane to begin. But growth hormone, I mean, you got to be nuts. And I know that maybe there's young guys who will watch this who will go, "Hey, yeah, he's crazy. I know it works." And, all right, don't listen to me. But you were warned. That's all I can say. You have fair warning.
With growth hormone, then, would you be comfortable in naming anyone that used it early on in the late 70s or late 80s? Late 70s, early 80s?
Let me think. I have to think about that. Actually, a better question would be who didn't use it.
Wow. Okay.
As soon as these guys heard the word human growth hormone,
that's it.
Let me have it.
Wow.
And when they heard, Dan Duchesne wrote a book called The Underground Steroid Handbook, and it was published in 1981. And that is what really started the growth hormone use in bodybuilding. You got to give credit to Dan Duchesne, because in the book, he wrote that growth hormone was the most anabolic substance he's ever found. And when bodybuilders read that, they couldn't wait to get their hands on growth hormone. And like I said, the initial form was cadaver-based, which was dangerous. Later on, I think it was 85, if I remember correctly, that they came out with the recombinant DNA form, which was safe. But just about every bodybuilder, experimented at one time or another in the 80s. When I'm talking about I'm talking about the pros. I would say the vast majority of them experimented at one time or another with growth hormone.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, that's kind of what Danny told me in a way. He was telling me that, just like you said, that the cadaver-based was the first one.
And
it was already around in the late 70s. But then the fear came out with the prion diseases, and it kind of stopped. And then once that book came out later on, and the synthetic version came out by the mid 80s, that's it. It was basically everybody taking it. So, wow. That's kind of my questions about the history of steroids. So thanks on that.
I will say that some of the bodybuilders, just to close out the growth hormone, they did get some side effects from growth hormone, because again, it was that attitude that, if 2 units, to treat growth hormone deficiency, it's about maybe a unit of growth hormone. That's in children, right? The actual total deficiency of GH. To treat a growth hormone deficiency in an older adult, like what they call growth hormone replacement therapy, that's like 1/10 of 1 unit. It's a very small amount. They found initially they gave older people the same amount of growth hormone they were using to treat dwarfs, but the older people, that was too much. The older people were having all kinds of side effects. Some of the men were getting gynecomastia. That's from growth hormone, and they were getting severe joint pain. So they kind of experimented with the dosages, and they discovered if they give a much lower dose to older people who are deficient in growth hormone, they got the benefits of growth hormone, meaning, let's say, less body fat, more muscle, this and that, possibly, better skin tone and all that. And also they did studies. It's interesting. Some of these people have been on growth hormone therapy for 20 years. See, the big fear with growth hormone was, you see, I don't want to get too technical, but when you take growth hormone, you automatically stimulate the synthesis of another hormone in the liver called insulin-like growth factor 1. The problem with insulin-like growth factor 1, it stimulates what they call something called mitosis, which is cell division. Cancer is a process of uncontrolled cell division. And growth hormone has another aspect to it, which is dangerous. It prevents a cell programming called apoptosis, which a cell uses to destroy itself. In other words, the body can detect, the cells themselves can detect when a cell is mutating or damaged, and it initiates an internal program that destroys itself. But what IGF-1 prevents that. So what happens is tumor cells actually produce their own IGF-1, because IGF-1 not only prevents the self-destruction of the tumor cells, but it also promotes the angiogenesis, the development of new blood vessels that allows the tumor to metastasize and spread. People don't realize that's why they always tell you to try and catch a cancer or tumor as early as possible. That if you catch it in its original site, the medical term is in situ. If you catch a tumor in its original site, most tumors, most cancers, you have a 90% chance of survival. But once the cancer has spread or metastasized, it reverses. Now you only have a 10% of survival. They don't like to tell that to people, because it's very disheartening to learn that, if the cancer has spread, you only have 10% chance of survival. It's kind of like, again, I hate to use the comparison. It's like the situation with COVID-19. Once you get on, if you get so sick that you have to be put on a respirator, your chances by that point of survival are only 10%. They don't tell that to people because it's scary. but that's the fact, you know. But anyway, here I got off on a tangent. You asked, what was
No,
that?
it's okay.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about the bodybuilder. So the bodybuilders, they didn't. One bodybuilder, Dennis Newman, got leukemia. He attributed it to his growth hormone use. Lyle Alzado, professional football player who I knew pretty well, he used to ask me questions about steroids. Anyway, he got a type of a brain tumor that killed him. He also attributed first to growth hormone, later to his long 23 years, according to him, of constant steroid use. This is Lyle. But most of the bodies, thank God, didn't get cancer. And they found in the people that are on the older people on long-term growth hormone therapy, 20 years of study with the low dose, they do not get cancer. The kids that are on growth hormone therapy of dwarfism, they do not get cancer. But IGF-1 is possible, under certain circumstances, it could possibly stimulate cancer. But let's get away from that. The bodybuilders did not get cancer, except possibly, we don't know if the growth hormone really caused Dennis Newman's leukemia, but what they got was certain weird things. They would get like carpal tunnel syndrome, it's called. You have this nerves that go through the wrist and it innervates certain fingers on your hand, right? Now, what happens is growth hormone, it really doesn't stimulate our muscle growth. What it stimulates is it does stimulate water retention in muscle, and it stimulates connective tissue. It's very anabolic for connective tissue, mainly the IGF-1 aspect. But you have, like I say, this nerve, I think it's the median nerve, I remember correctly. It runs through a little sheath of connective tissue, like a tunnel. And when you take growth hormone, guess what? The tunnel thickens, and it depresses the nerve, so you lose feeling in your hand. And you have to have surgery to literally open up the tunnel again. That's called carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yeah.
A lot of famous bodybuilders got this. I don't want to mention names. I don't want to embarrass him, but, you know, one of them played the Hulk on TV.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Anyway, the point is that, you know, they got this carpal tunnel syndrome, and other guys got, you know, you see, they'd start, you see, once you have attained adult height, your bones can't grow. So growth hormone can't give you longitudinal height. But there are certain bones that remain open for life that are capable of growth. And again, because of the connective tissue effect of growth hormone IGF-1, so if they stayed on large doses of growth hormone, they get weird stuff, like they'd start to get this kind of forehead growth. Sometimes it would make the nose grow. Sometimes it would make your tongue thicken. Macroglossia is the medical term. And some people, like Chris Dickerson, would get this, and I think Tom Platz had it. You get this weird bump on your elbow. That again was the connective tissue overgrowth. So that's what the bodybuilders got from it.
Yeah, I for example have the suspicion that Franco took it for the '81 Olympia.
Yeah. And by the way, growth hormone can also cause gynecomastia, as it did in the Olympia. And the thing here's you know what the really pathetic part is, Carlos? The really pathetic part is, a lot of people will get mad when I say this. Growth hormone itself is not very anabolic, except under one condition. If you're actually deficient in growth hormone, like the dwarfs, like the older people, you take growth hormone, it is anabolic by itself. But in young bodybuilders, bodybuilders in the 40s, are still, if you're not deficient in growth hormone, taking it alone does nothing. But there's a weird effect. What happens is when you take growth hormone with two other drugs, there's a synergistic effect where all of them, see, growth hormone, just like insulin, probably because of the insulin growth factor, is not anabolic, but it is anti-catabolic. In other words, it helps to prevent the breakdown of muscle tissue. So what the bodybuilders, the pro body started doing in the late 80s and early 90s is I call it the anabolic triumvirate, is the term I use. They combine three drugs: large amounts of growth hormone, anabolic steroids, injectable and oral, and insulin. Why insulin? Insulin is anti-catabolic, again, not anabolic unless you have a large amount of amino acids. Insulin itself is anti-catabolic, and you combine it with growth hormone, which is also anti-catabolic. You have a great preservation of muscle tissue. And in other words, it prevents some of the negative effects of dieting. And insulin also stimulates glycogen formation of muscle, making the muscle look thicker. And the insulin counteracts one of the main side effects of growth hormone, which is elevation of blood sugar, hyperglycemia, which in a worst case scenario could possibly cause diabetes.
Diabetes.
So that's the reason they use all three. And what was the net effect of taking all three? That's when you started to see guys on the posing platform weighing 270 pounds. Now, everybody listening, now you know where it came from. It was that combination.
Exactly. I mean, it was no surprise when Lou Ferrigno made his comeback, came at over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Dorian Yates obviously kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the year. His face deformed.
Yeah, there you go. And Dorian, to his credit, doesn't deny it. He said he used growth hormone. He denies using the doses attributed. I mean, I remember when he was competing, people were saying that Dorian was using 25 units a day of growth hormone. That's an insane amount. That's insane. Dorian claims to use, I think he mentioned that he used a maximum of 8 units a day, which is still huge, but not 25 is insane. That's going to cause problems. Come on, you know.
Yeah, it's really interesting, all these conversations. I mean, thank you so much again for talking about the history of steroids. It's really interesting to talk about this topic, and I mean, we could go for hours. Jerry, it's 20 to 12.
Yeah. Oh, where you are?
For me.
At midnight? Oh, you mean almost?
For me, 20 to 12.
Okay.
And I'm gonna get up at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Go to work.
Got it.
I'd love to continue talking, mate, but I think we'll have to reschedule another interview.
Okay.
Because you've mentioned names in the past and even today, Bruno Sammartino, Harold Poole, Freddie Ortiz, etc. Bill Pearl, Mike Mensa. I'd love to talk to you more about them in our next conversation.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll just have to leave it to the next time. It's been great again, and I really appreciate it.
Sure. No, always good to talk to you, Carlos.
Likewise.
If you could also do what you did last time, mention my Applied Metabolics newsletter.
I always do.
Yeah.
At the end of every video, and I mean, I read it myself. So sometimes when you mention the journals that you're talking about that aren't Applied Metabolics, I know exactly the ones you're talking about because I constantly read it.
That's right.
And I think it's a fantastic source of information for natural bodybuilding and for professional bodybuilding, of course.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So not a problem.
I like that music you play when your videos start, real dramatic.
A lot of people ask me about it.
Yeah, I got these really good speakers attached to my computer. When I turn it up, I mean, it's like real powerful, you know.
That's kind of why I used it, but it was a free.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, this is old school. In the 60s, one of the more popular songs or music that bodybuilders posed to was the soundtrack from a movie called Exodus.
Oh yeah.
It would go dun 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 dun, and they would pose. They would tune the posing to when they would go dun 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 dun. It was like really powerful. Yeah,
Arnold would use Exodus.
Your music reminds me of that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I actually got it as a free tune from YouTube years ago.
Yeah,
I really liked it. I used the first 10 seconds of it only. It was a free tune.
Yeah.
Because I don't like getting into copyright issues.
Right.
And I since then I've been asked a million times, what's the tune called? I can't remember.
Whatever it is, it's good and it's actually suitable to your topic. It sounds like it would go with golden, the golden era, that type of thing. Yeah, it's very suitable music. I mean, you wouldn't want to play rap music for something like that.
Oh, God, no. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry.
Okay.
Thank you so much again, and we'll talk again soon, yeah?
Okay, Carlos. Take care.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
So that was my last interview with Jerry Brainum, and I do hope that we can talk again soon, Jerry. In this video interview, we have heard Jerry talk about how growth hormone appeared in the late 70s and early 80s, and therefore many of the golden era legends could not have used growth hormone to achieve their beautiful physiques. As Danny Padilla corroborated, Jerry explains how initially growth hormone was extracted from the pituitary glands of human cadavers, and after the development of prionic diseases in children like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, Many bodybuilders feared that they would also be infected with this deadly infection, really, and stopped the use of growth hormone. However, soon after, synthetic growth hormone came on the market and growth hormone use took off amongst bodybuilders. Although synthetic growth hormone is now available and is the preferred growth hormone used by pro bodybuilders, Jerry Brainum talks about the dangers of purchasing growth hormone and other steroids on the black market due to the fact that black market growth hormone is still extracted from human cadavers in some cases. And I mean, talk about playing with your life. Jerry Brainum also explains that most 80s bodybuilders use growth hormone, and it was basically around the mid-80s when most pro bodybuilders turned to the recombinant DNA form of growth hormone after Dan Duchesne's underground steroid handbook came out. Although microdoses were beneficial for treating dwarfism in children, adults were found to get side effects like joint pain and gynecomastia, and it is no surprise that we started seeing these abnormal effects in bodybuilders during the 80s. As Jerry goes to explain, growth hormone stimulates IGF-1 production and increases mitosis, which is the splitting of cells or the growth of cells, and prevents apoptosis, which is an automatic process that occurs in a cell which helps the cell die. Basically, it's an automated process for cell death. And therefore, by preventing this process, cancer is promoted. And as Jerry explains, bodybuilders began to develop leukemia due to growth hormone use, as well as brain tumors and other cancers, and even carpal tunnel syndrome due to growth hormone stimulating connective tissue. Jerry also explains how excessive bone growth in unfused bones, or at least in areas where the bone is unfused, can also occur as a side effect. For example, in the humerus specifically, the elbows and facial bones too, which is apparent in bone growth and structural changes seen in bodybuilders past the 80s and especially during the 90s. Finally, Jerry Brainum goes on to detail the effects of combining growth hormone with other performance-enhancing drugs. It was later found that growth hormone doesn't work as well when used alone, but when combined with insulin and steroids, this led to, the nowadays 270 pound, 300 pound, and even more recently, the 337 pound big Ramis that we see, we actually saw that beginning of the mass monsters, of course, in the 90s, but now in the 2000s, we see them all the time. It is, of course, now that we are seeing also the destructive effects of abusing such performing-enhancing drugs due to the increasing deaths in bodybuilders at much younger ages, which is truly a shame. Anyway, I do hope you have enjoyed this interview with Jerry Brainum on the appearance of growth hormone and the mass monster age. As disturbing as this part of bodybuilding history is, one can remain hopeful that the tides will turn and athletes will hopefully begin to embrace a more natural form of bodybuilding. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please give the video a like, subscribe to this channel and Jerry's channel too, of course, for more content like this, and click the bell button to be notified of future videos. And don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Applied Metabolics newsletter by Jerry Brainum if you do wish to enhance your knowledge on bodybuilding nutrition, especially as a natural bodybuilder. More information is given in the description below. If you're interested in learning more about natural bodybuilding, hit me up for online coaching and also check my website for ebooks and golden era training. That's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how Steve Reeves developed his ribcage, I've got a wonderful new e-booklet up on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com, which explains a very rare and unpublished Reeves ribcage and full body routine. Of course, my website has many other booklets on Steve Reeves' methods, specifically how I developed my waist, how I developed my broad shoulders, and another ebook on how he developed his wonderful diamond-shaped calves. All available on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com. Online training is now available, including my new program, Novice to Classic, a program geared towards beginners and novices looking at developing a classic physique, as well as Classic Cut, geared at those who wish to lose weight and gain muscle fast. Details available at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Need a bodybuilding poster for your gym or office? Then check out Ironman Magazine archive.smugmug.com for the highest quality posters on the planet. Scroll through the galleries of all the legends, including greats such as Arnold, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, Serge Nubret, Tom Platz, and Larry Scott, and much, much more, and select your poster now. As a natural bodybuilder, it is imperative to know your own testosterone levels, as they are a reflection of the anabolic environment created by your diet and training. I would highly recommend using the male hormone test kit from Let's Get Checked, and make sure you use my code GOLDEN30 for a 30% discount. Again, the advantage of checking yourself regularly is that you will know how well your body is anabolically primed to put on the much desired muscle you are working for. Get your gym wear and Golden Era apparel at the new Golden Era Tees shop, featuring designs from the Silver Era and Golden Era legends, available as tanks, shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies in all sizes and colors. To support your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm for merchandise including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again at teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the Golden Era of bodybuilding.
I don't think that Bill Phillips looked at it as, I want to compete against them. I want to destroy them.
If they pass legislation basically making any type of food supplement a prescription item, that would be the end, the death of the entire food supplement industry.
In the 1960s, the sports supplement industry was barely emerging.
I think the reason why Joe Weider was so successful was he had Arnold on his side.
He wasn't selling supplements. He was in the dream business.
Joe Weider was a marketing genius.
People would say the promotions or the endorsements back then were cheesy. To me, it wasn't. I loved it.
Fitness was taking off. You know, fitness became cool. You had a lot of readers that wanted to be like the stars that they idolized.
Bill's strength is his marketing savvy. He's a marketing genius.
Got it. It's only vitamin.
The right of American citizens to have free access to dietary supplements of their choice.
Consult your physician. You might as well consult the next guy you meet on the street. They don't know a damn thing about vitamins and nutrition.
The dietary supplement industry became the #2 most regulated industry. Nuclear, dietary supplements, pharmaceutical. We're more regulated than drugs.
They come in and you need to allow the FDA. They have jurisdiction.
The enforcement is kind of the questionable side of it, and how do they really get a handle on this monster?
A lot of people tell me that the dietary supplement industry is completely unregulated. It's the wild, wild west out there. It's a free-for-all. That could not be further from the truth.
A dietary supplement is not allowed to have a side effect. I always say that pharmaceutical has to have a minimum of 100 side effects in order for it to be a drug.
And now, it's a $40 billion industry and growing.
That's the really interesting thing, is the cast of characters from the 80s, when it was kind of iffy, to now when it's a lot more legitimate.
They made it sound cutting edge, revolutionary, and different, and I want that. That's cool.
We are in this industry to improve our health. It's not just a vanity project here. We're working on our lifeline. We eat a certain way to improve our health. We train a certain way to improve our health. Supplements are just that. They supplement your work, your graft, your nutrition.
They demonize dietary supplements, but they say all you need is real food. Well, what's a real food?
They pump you up and get you hard, stronger, faster, bigger.
Doc, I want to take this weight gain. I want to take this pre-workout. Doctor's, no way. That stuff, we don't know what's in that. It could be, no way. I'm not going to give you.
It's going to kill the industry, bottom line.
So I must have drank so much protein powder from age 15 to 18 that my head was going to explode.
I believed in metrics so much that I would probably punch somebody in the face if they tried to take it away from me.